Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jamie.
I'm Justina.
And this is
Just So You Know. Season 2.
Yes. Today we have a very exciting episode in store for you. We are going to be talking about why we eat pigs, love dogs, and wear cows.
Crazy.
Not in that particular order, but just so you know.
Yeah, that specific topic literally is what got me to go vegan when I was actually asking myself that important question.
And we have Dr. Melanie Joy, an internationally recognized speaker, a psychologist, an author, and we're going to ask her all the questions. Like, I want to know how our brains work with all of this stuff. Like,
right. What's the missing link and why people have like a hard time making the connection whenever they see a cute cow, they're like, oh, so cute, while they eat a burger. I'm like, are you dumb or are you choosing to be dumb?
like,
Which one?
What's going on here? We're going to get into it. And just yesterday, I was at the hair salon and this cutie little Frenchie doggy walks in and he was like a little piglet and he strolled in and the whole hair salon just stopped and began looking at him. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's so cute. And they were freaking out over him. So I can't help myself, obviously. And I'm like, oh my God, he looks like a little piglet. And everybody's just kind of looking at me like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, you know, it is kind of interesting. Like, would we have the same reaction if that were a pig?
I can't with you.
And so the hair salon is like, just trying to ignore me, but I don't stop. And so then I'm like, you know, this is actually a question that we're going to be discussing on the Just So You Know podcast tomorrow. And so I thought it was just super interesting to see these people's reactions, because then I saw two of the hairdressers come back with a bag of lunch that definitely had animal products in it.
I know. It's really sad. I mean, I didn't know where you were going with that. You were like, I couldn't help myself. I thought you meant just to like be cutie pie with the dog. You're like, I couldn't help myself but to bring that vegan message.
Well, I actually was like the one that wasn't freaking out about the dog.
You know what, Jamie? I'm not going to call you out, but I'm going to call you out. Sometimes I don't know if you like dogs that much. I think you like chickens and cows more than you like dogs.
I love all animals equally, but I also don't need to like obsess over them. Like, that is a man. He is a grown individual man.
He's a little man, and I love him.
And I talk to the animals like they're people, you know, they are. And
listen, I talk to people a certain way because I don't really particularly like them, but animals, I have a different voice for them, and that's an indication that I actually love them.
I think people mix up the whole vegan thing where they think that you have to be this like crazy animal lover, when really you don't have to like animals to just recognize that they deserve to live and be here with us.
Yeah, just respect. Yeah. Just respect. We do not know what respect means these days.
But so we're facing this time where you see like these people that are in the hair salon obsessing over a dog and then wearing leather, eating other animals. And it's like this really strange cognitive dissonance. And then when you call them out on it, there's this really strange defense that kind of comes in, right?
Yeah, because people don't think that they're doing anything wrong because all of that is just normalized. And they don't see chickens and pigs and cows every day. So there's not that relationship. So like, I understand, and nobody likes to be called out. You don't like to be called out. I don't like to be called out, even though I kind of do. I kind of like to be called out. Because I'm like, I'm wrong.
Do you?
I'm like, I'm wrong. I'm like, let's go. We could battle this out.
You love to battle it out.
I can battle it out. We don't have to kill or eat anybody with that.
No.
We can do it respectfully, in peace. But it's a sad thing. It wasn't, I think I told you the story. I don't know if I said it on the podcast. Like, what made me actually go vegan fully was when I saw this art piece of like a cat and a dog with a human with forks and knives, and on the other side was a cow, pig, goat, and chicken. And I was like, holy crap.
So it was
I'm dividing them.
It was the reverse role? Like the animals were in the place of the humans?
No. So like the domesticated animals, the dog and the cat, were with the human. Oh. But the farmed animals were on the other side.
Okay.
And it was just kind of like that. The whole point of the topic is like, dogs and cats are here and pigs and chickens and everybody else is on the other side. And I was like, oh my God, I'm
that shit.
And I was just like, that's so hypocritical of me because I will freak out the same way I do with the dog, with a pig or a cow. And I was like, but I'm eating him. That is crazy. Like nowadays, like I'm like, wow. Like when I tell people exactly that, I'm like, but you love cats. And I'm like, but why would you eat a ground up cow? And I'm like, tell me that doesn't sound crazy to you. Please tell me.
What would you say to your younger self? Like if you could have a conversation with her right now, she's loving all these animals, but then also eating them, what would you say?
I would be like, girl, tap into your Pocahontas. Every rock, every creature has a name. I always didn't want to eat them. It's just like gaslighting is just a new term we love to throw around these days, but we've always been gaslit.
Can we just like back up to Pocahontas real quick?
I'd love to. Okay.
What happened there?
What happened there was that she sees equality for all living beings, including—
Is she vegan?
Don't know.
Because I thought there was a feather in her little cap there.
You can find feathers on the road. You don't have to kill somebody for that. I could find a nice feather and be like, oh my God, a cute little
I don't want
birdie
somebody
was here.
decorating themselves with a piece of my hair.
Well,
that's freaking weird.
But people wear extensions and they're wearing other people's hair.
Actually, that is true. I was thinking about getting bangs, which I know it's not a good idea for me. So I looked up these clip-on bangs and they were made from real human hair. And I'm like, like, is this kind of weird to do?
Dude, that's also advertising. That's also fake.
It's fake hair?
Yeah. A lot of hairstylists always tell me, they're like, that's bullshit. It's not all human hair. Like, it's like probably a very low percentage. It's kind of like—
It's like a blend.
The greenwashing, like, farm to take grass fed, cage free. You're like, the okay.
Free range human hair.
Basically.
Okay.
Basically. And probably that was not consensual at all, unfortunately.
Well, today we're not going to get into the psychology of human hair versus not human hair, but we are going to get into the psychology behind why we eat some animals and love others. So without further ado, let us bring on the one, the only, Dr. Melanie Joy.
Hi, it's good to see you.
You as well. Thank you so much for coming on, just so you know.
Yes.
Thanks. It's a pleasure. I know we've been talking about doing this for a long time now, and I'm really glad it's finally happening. And it's super interesting to hear you guys talk about your own experience and your own stories, which tie in. I mean, they're just perfect examples of what we're going to be talking about today.
Right.
What's your story? How did you originally make the connection and go vegan?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, my story is actually what led me to do the work, which led me to write the book, Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows, and be like doing this work in the world today, which is, raising awareness of the psychology that conditions us to eat certain animals. So like so many people, I grew up with a dog who I loved like a family member. And like most people, I also grew up eating meat, eggs, and dairy. And over the course of so many years and so many meals, I just never thought how strange it was that I could be, petting my dog with one hand while I ate a pork chop with the other. A pork chop that had once been an animal who was at least as sentient and intelligent as my dog. I just, as you were saying earlier, I just didn't make the connection between the meat on my plate and the living being it once was. But all that changed back in 1989. I was 23 years old, and I ate a hamburger that ended up, it turned out to be contaminated with a pretty dangerous bacteria. And I wound up on intravenous antibiotics in the hospital, like just wildly ill. Oh. And so I became like a vegetarian by accident, like it wasn't, when you
were
eat something and it's
traumatized. You were like,
yeah,
no.
Totally. Totally. And when you're just so sick, you're like the last thing you ate, it's like just makes you feel like, oh, I'm never going to touch it again. So I'm like, I'm never eating meat again.
Gave me goosebumps.
And Yeah. And so then I had to learn about like, okay, like this is the 80s, like how do I cook for myself? Where do I shop and blah, blah, blah. And of course, this led me to information about animal agriculture, which shortly thereafter, I met somebody who, told me about, eggs and dairy, and I ended up becoming vegan, But what I was learning about animal agriculture, it just shocked and horrified me. I could not believe the extent of harm to the animals, to farmed animals, to the environment, to public health, to my own body, right? And this is back in the 80s where they didn't know anywhere near what they know today.
Good for you, Melanie.
Our girl.
But I was traumatized, but what shocked me in some ways even more than what I was learning about was that nobody I talked to about this was willing to hear what I had to say. They would always say something like, don't tell me that you'll ruin my meal, or they'd call me a radical vegan hippie propagandist. And I was like, oh my God, like, how is it? Like, these are my friends and family. They were like rational, compassionate people, just like I had been, a couple of months ago or a few months ago before I started on this journey. And like, but who just like, what is it that's making them just stop thinking and feeling when it comes to this incredibly critical issue?
Right.
Like, what the hell is going on?
That was our next question. What do you think is stopping some people from making that connection?
A lot of people are not making that connection for many of the same reasons. I mean, people are all unique, but I eventually actually enrolled over time. I enrolled in a doctoral program in psychology. And this was the question I had in mind. How do good people participate in harmful practices without realizing what they're doing? Like, what's going on psychologically? And so I studied the psychology of violence and nonviolence pretty broadly, but then I wrote my doctoral dissertation specifically on the psychology of eating animals. And this led me to identify what I came to call carnism, which is the invisible belief system that conditions people to eat certain animals, right? Like, we tend to assume that only vegans and vegetarians follow a belief system, but the only reason we might eat pigs but not dogs, for example, is because we do have a belief system when it comes to eating animals. It's just that belief system is invisible. So most people think, well, eating animals is just a given. It's just the way things are. But carnism is organized around a very specific type of psychology, right? Carnism is a violent system. Most people, you guys were pointing this out earlier, they care about animals. Most people would never, ever willingly support intensive and extensive, totally unnecessary violence toward animals. And yet most people do support that multiple times a day through their food choices, right? So carnism needs to use a set of psychological defense mechanisms that distort our perceptions and disconnect us from our natural empathy when it comes to those animals we've learned to classify as edible. And I can give you some examples.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that work? Like, what's the psychology? Like, what are the habitual things to brainwash or condition someone into believing this so deeply within their moral
So let me
system?
just give you a little, like, an example. Let's do a thought experiment, right? To demonstrate carnism in action. And then I'll unpack what these psychological mechanisms are.
Okay.
So let's imagine that you're not vegan, right? You're non-vegans. And you're sitting down and you're biting into a juicy hamburger. And your dining companion turns to you and says, hey, by the way, that meat is actually made of golden retrievers. Now, take a moment to think about what just happened. Chances are what you had just thought of as food, you now think of as a dead animal. What you had just felt was delicious, you now feel is disgusting. So therefore, rather than continuing to eat the burger, you probably want to throw it in the trash and maybe even take to the streets and protest. Now, your reaction to the golden retriever burger is your authentic reaction. It hasn't been tarnished by carnism, right? So carnism distorts our perceptions when it comes to the animals we've learned to classify as edible, so that we don't see their bodies as bodies. We see them as food. We don't feel disgusted. We feel appetized.
How do they do that, though? Because, like, we instantly are like, oh no, the dogs. But, like, how did they condition us to hear cows and be like, I don't want to hear that?
Like, was it our parents?
Yeah. Like, what is the psychological thing behind that?
Because kids also have all these books that have all the animals in there. And as a kid, I did love animals and cows, and I liked to actually go to the zoo because I wanted to see them,
Right. So, like, what's
But then I was like eating them and not actually thinking of it as an animal.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and this is the really interesting thing, right? There are a lot of kids that do actually break through and they're like, wait a minute, where does chicken come from? And then their parents are like, chicken comes from chickens. And they're like, what? I don't want to eat that. And they have to be reconditioned. So think about it this way. From the moment we're weaned, we are being taught to put the bodies of dead animals into our mouths and think of that as food and disconnect from the actual animal that we're eating. We're just taught this. We're taught that eating animals is normal, natural, and necessary. You said, who teaches us this? Before I talk about the psychological mechanisms, let me talk about where these messages come from in the first place. Carnism is what's called a dominant system. That means that it is so widespread that its beliefs, its teachings are woven through the very structure of society. They shape norms, laws, beliefs, behaviors, and all social institutions. So when we study nutrition, for example, we study carnistic nutrition. When we learn medicine, we learn carnistic medicine. Our religion teaches us usually that eating animals is the right thing to do. Government teaches us that eating animals is the right thing to do. Our parents do, because this is what they learned. It's so normalized. When we're born into this dominant system, we look at the world through the lens of carnism. And the key message that we get over and over and over again is that eating animals is the right thing to do, and not eating animals is the wrong thing to do.
And freaky and weird, and they call us names.
Right.
And
Totally.
I'm wondering why there's that really strong defense mechanism when it comes to trying to break through this carnism. Like literally as vegans, all we're saying is be kind to animals and respect them and not pay for their throats to be slit and their babies to be taken.
Right. It's not selfish, yet people get so defensive. We're like,
as if like we're the one. Like
I'm like, this
I'm just
has
a
nothing
messenger.
to do with me. Yeah.
Right. So before I explain the specific psychological defense mechanisms, let me just clarify that there are, so in order to maintain itself, right, a system like carnism, because it really runs counter to the core human values that most people espouse.
Right. That's why that's what I want you to get to.
Most people would
is
never
it the
ever
repetition?
want to. It is. So there are lots of things. And so in order to kind of keep itself alive, it needs to use these psychological defense mechanisms. And it basically, carnism conditions people to feel defensive against anyone or anything that would get them out of the carnistic box. So all you have to do is say, I'm vegan, and you're hit with this wall of defenses. So let me give you an example of some defense mechanisms. So you guys, listeners, know what I'm talking about, right? The way that our minds are working under carnism. So carnism uses these defenses, cognitive distortions. You don't need to know this word, but they teach us, carnism teaches us basically to see farmed animals as abstractions, as lacking in any individuality or personality of their own. So we learn to believe, for example, that a pig is a pig and all pigs are the same. While we recognize that dogs have personalities and characters and lives that matter to them, and most people know rationally pigs do as well, we're all conditioned to disconnect from that rational part of ourselves and to just think of pigs as an abstraction. And carnism teaches us to see animals, or farmed animals, I should say, as objects. So
how do they teach us that?
Well, when we look at the chicken on our plate, right, we are taught to refer to that as something rather than someone.
Okay.
So we learn to use wording. We learn to use language. We learn through the books we read. We learn through the stories we're told that pigs are dirty and stupid and ugly and they roll around in mud and don't look, look away. Carnism uses justifications. This is another defense mechanism. So we learn in school and beyond to believe in what I call the 3 N's of justification. Eating animals is normal, natural, and necessary. This is taught to us in all of our classes pretty much in school, and it is indoctrinated in us. Eating animals is normal, natural, and necessary. These are myths, but we learn to believe that they're facts. And frankly, these are the same arguments that have been used to justify violent practices throughout human history, from male dominance to heterosexual supremacy. Right. We always say it's normal, natural, and necessary. Don't question it.
Right.
So would you say language has a big part of it? Like, instead of calling it a cow burger, we say hamburger or pork chops, and it's another layer to depersonalize them.
And also,
Yes.
if you call somebody a pig, like it's usually not seen as a good thing.
Right?
Or
a dog,
a fox.
But even a dog,
or
fox is a good thing.
No, it means you're like sneaky.
No, a fox is like
Foxy, sexy. Okay, well, I also
I'm like, wrong. Fox is hot.
snake,
Snake is bad, right? Snakes are always
filthy animal. People say,
Right,
and it's like,
filthy
first
animal.
of all, humans are animals.
exactly.
Thank you.
The filthy
I
animal.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and to your question about language around farmed animals, right? When it comes to mammals, we don't use the name. We don't say we're eating pig, we're eating pork, we're eating cow. We're not eating cow, we're eating beef. But when it comes to animals, chickens, we say we're eating chickens. Fish, we're eating fish because we're more psychologically distant from them. So basically, all of these ideas that we internalize, they're distancing mechanisms. What they do is they distance us, they disconnect us from our natural empathy for the animals that we learn to classify as edible. And this is true everywhere in the world, right? The type of animal consumed changes, but people's way of relating to those animals stays the same. So in some places in the world, they don't eat cows, and they're horrified at the idea of eating cows, like in India, but they do eat chickens.
So would you say that cultural conditioning is stronger than empathy? Because obviously we all kind of embody that in different cultures, but is it the cultural conditioning that creates that distance?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, empathy is hardwired in us. We are hardwired. I mean, we know this, that humans are hardwired to feel empathy for others, and that includes other animals.
Anymore. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, well, we are hardwired to feel empathy, but we just learn how to disconnect from the empathy. Where conditioning is like, think of our empathy as our bodies, and conditioning as the clothing we put on top of them.
Okay.
The conditioning can be lots and lots of layers of clothing, so we don't even know what we look like anymore. And so really, it's not enough. I mean, you were asking earlier, why is it that you can't just say to somebody like, hey, wake up, look at what's going on. And they just don't say, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm going to stop eating animals. It's not enough to just use rational explanation. It's certainly calling people out doesn't work. I mean, lots of studies have shown that most people feel internal discomfort, moral discomfort around eating animals. And this is the key reason they feel so defensive against learning about their participation in carnism. So when we communicate with people to raise awareness of this issue, if we communicate in a way that's shaming or blaming, we tend to create the very opposite outcome of what we want. People who feel called out, feel attacked, because they are being attacked, and they withdraw or attack in self-defense. They don't open themselves.
Do you think shame is not, like, somebody feeling guilt and shame is not going to motivate them?
Well, guilt and shame are not the same thing. Guilt is how you feel about a behavior, and shame is how you feel about yourself.
Your behavior.
Now, one's behavior. Yeah. So it's one is about behavior and one is about yourself, right? And most people in many places in the world, as soon as they feel guilt, it flips into shame anyway. Right. So I never encourage guilting or shaming. Okay. There has been a lot of research that has shown that people who even feel the threat of being shamed go into a state where they become they have less access to their rational faculties. They're thinking less rationally, and they're more disconnected for their empathy.
Yeah, they turn off.
So when we
they're like,
communicate, when we communicate in a way that's shaming, it tends to create the opposite outcomes of what we want, because who's going to who's going to open their heart and mind and be vulnerable and reflect on how they've acted against their own values when they feel like we're judging them?
Well, something similar happened to me where in the moment, this is before I went vegan, I was still pescatarian, and I went out for sushi with a few friends, and they started kind of picking on me and making fun of me. They weren't also not vegan, and they were like, I find it weird that you say you love animals, but you're eating fish. You're literally eating fish right now. And I'm like, it's different. Like, leave me alone. And I got really defensive, really pissed off. I basically left the dinner, and 3 weeks later I went vegan. And so it was like, in that moment, I was being attacked, I was being shamed. Right. And then it took some time and reflection for me to then settle into that guilty feeling and then ultimately change. And I honestly do feel I would not have changed to go vegan as soon as I did if it wasn't for that interaction.
Right. I feel like a lot of humans are different. I'm the same way. I think that's why
I needed it.
I needed to feel like, oh my God, I love animals so much. How could I do that? How could I do that? I'm a hypocrite. And that ultimately pushed me, as opposed to like,
but it was us coming to it ourselves.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't even suggest that people have to come to it themselves, because most people wouldn't. But I do wonder, Jamie, like if you would have gone vegan in 3 hours rather than 3 weeks, if you had been communicated with in a way that didn't make you walk away from the dinner, right? I mean, there have been plenty of dinner conversations that I have witnessed where in the moment people are like, I get it, you know?
Yeah.
And often, you know, we change in spite of being shamed, not because of it. All I can tell you is what the research shows. So there are going to be outliers.
Yeah, we're the outliers.
Maybe. I mean, that's possible. But it's like saying somebody who's 90 years old and they've smoked a pack a day their entire lives. That doesn't mean that most people, you know, won't make it that far. So, and we don't have to. I mean, the good thing is that we don't have to communicate in a way that's shaming to get people to open their hearts and minds. We can communicate the message clearly and directly and honestly without bringing in this like judgmentality that communicates that somehow this person is like morally inferior as a being because they didn't connect the dots sooner.
Well, I definitely want some advice from you, because I always try to make it make sense. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very passionate person. She loves musicals. Like I adore animals. So whenever I approach it with someone who I actually know, I try to come from a compassionate place and try to personalize these animals, and people, they get it. But getting it doesn't mean the change is going to happen. Right. So it's like, it's kind of like, what do I do after that? They get it. I know. It's like, where's that happy balance of like getting it and changing?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think you're asking the $1 million question. I think it's a really, really important question, right? So it's, as people who are advocates, you know, we're advocating for change. We don't have the power to force behavioral change. And people who feel like we're trying to force them to change are people who get very resistant. Grown-ups don't like to be controlled, right? You know, and so we have to be really careful with that. Really, the goal of advocacy is all we are in control of. It's not about changing hearts and minds. It's about opening hearts and minds. And the only thing that we're in control of is creating an environment where our message is most likely to be heard as it's intended to be heard. And we can't do more than that. And so it's like, yeah, there are a lot of people that aren't ready to fully change their behaviors. They might move toward veganism, and that counts for a lot. It really does in terms of like, you know, impact on animals. There are a lot of people who are not ready to become fully vegan. And there are also a lot of people who are ready to become vegan, or at least to get close to that. And as vegans, we often spend a lot of effort on one person, when it's like, okay, there are over 8 billion people in the world now, okay? Plant the seeds, speak your truth in a way that helps that person be open to what you have to say, and then move on to the next person. And don't make it your job or your business to do anything more than that, because you can't. And if you try to, you'll get exhausted and frustrated.
Right. Can you give us some concrete examples of how to approach people? And like, let's say I'm talking to a person, what language could we use that is maybe puts people less on the defensive side, and like more compassionate language that makes them feel safe and comfortable? And like, when it comes to advocacy, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, effective advocacy starts in your attitude, right? If you're going in, you could use all the sweetest words in the world, but if inside you're thinking like, oh, you suck, you know,
dumb
it's going to come out. So
yeah, it's true.
It starts in your mind, and recognizing that good people can participate in harmful practices and doesn't make them bad people. Like, that's a good start
to understand. That's a hard thing to understand.
The banality of evil.
Yeah.
Well, here's a way to think about it, right? And just from a psychological, it makes sense to be frustrated. I mean, we want to change the problem. We want to end the suffering. There's no question about that. We also want to do it in as effective way as possible. And judging people for who and how they are just as usually creates the opposite outcomes of what we want. And from a psychological perspective, right? All we can say, what we know about ourselves, each and every one of us is truly nothing more and nothing less than the hard wiring that we came into this world with, our biology, and every single experience we've had throughout our lives. So if we know that, then expecting someone to really be different from who and how they are is like expecting a tree that's been rained on not to be wet. Like, I have no doubt that if Melanie, I don't know, I mean, was born into the body of Adolf Hitler, and I don't even believe that there is an I in here that would be born into the body, but let's just say hypothetically, if I was born into his brain and body and had every one of his experiences, I would not be standing here today talking about how to create a more compassionate world.
That's true.
So when I look at other people who, I think about what I call compassion privilege, right? I have the privilege because of my life experiences. I have the privilege to be compassionate and connected with my compassion.
Her life experiences, that's key.
Dude, you said some two bangers. You said our job is not to make the change, it's to open the hearts, and compassion privilege.
I'm making t-shirts.
Yeah, compassion privilege. That's amazing. It's so true. A lot of people do not have the privilege to be surrounded with compassionate influences or role models or experiences. They just see violence, no empathy, no compassion. And I forget that is a privilege.
It is a privilege. And it's like, the privilege is being able to be connected to your compassion. I mean, like one bad day and it's hard to stay connected with your compassion.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we feel like people who don't stay connected with their compassion, that they're somehow less than those of us who can, it's like being angry at people who don't have as much food as we do. It's like such a privilege not to be in so much pain that you don't care anymore because you're living in basically internal survival mode all the time. So having this understanding makes it a lot easier to to not feel judgmental of other people and their choices. It doesn't mean that you don't want to change the behaviors. Of course we do. But we're more likely to change those behaviors if we don't come in with a hammer from this morally superior position, like I'm better than you because I can feel compassion.
Right.
You're right.
So that's one thing I would suggest. And the other thing is when, we're trying to advocate, there are a couple of other things. One is to do so through your own story. Often people will say like, oh, why did you go vegan? And vegans respond by telling that person all the reasons they should be vegan, right? But nobody can make your story wrong. So if people ask me, why am I vegan? I said, well, I grew up with this dog and, but then one day I learned about what happens and I didn't want to be a part of that. And I also really recommend asking people two things, asking people not be vegan, which is really hard for a lot of people, but it's not like either you're vegan and you're part of the solution or you're not vegan and you're part of the problem. If we frame it that way, we prevent like 99% of the population from helping a cause that needs all the help it can get.
That's so true.
We can ask people to just be as vegan as possible. Like whatever that means to you, be as vegan as possible. People are not going to get defensive against that. What are they going to say? No, I won't be as vegan as possible.
Right. Once a week.
But would we say that for any other social justice issue? Like, would we ask people to be a little less racist or a little less homophobic?
I knew Jamie was going to have a hard time with that because Jamie's like, why not 1 week right now?
Here's what I do is I say it as nice as possible, but I'm like, look, you can at every meal be part of the solution or be part of the problem. Like the choice is up to you. And that's how I try to frame it. But like, I do not advocate for people eating less meat.
Yeah, Melanie just said no. You don't tell them being a part of the problem. If you tell people,
let me put it this way, right? At the end of the day, there are a couple of things. I mean, first of all, it is not if the activist Henry Spiro said, if you go into a negotiation asking for all or nothing, you're probably going to end up with nothing. And, at the end of the day, for me, my highest value is to stop the bloodshed. Like, I care about that more than being right. I care about that more than being pure. It doesn't matter. What matters to me is reducing suffering and harm.
Right.
And I know that I'm much more likely to be able to do that if I provide people with something that's more doable for them. So if you have 10 people who reduce their consumption by 50%, that's better than one person who goes vegan, right? Probably.
And it might lead them to go vegan completely.
And often it does, and it's more doable for them. But it's also true, like, I know what you mean, Jamie, where you say, like, what about, would you be a little bit less racist? Number one, most people who have racist attitudes and beliefs, I should say, which is most people in the world, because we're all indoctrinated with racism.
Right.
And any of us who thinks I've fully gotten out of it is probably deluding ourselves because it's just baked into us in ways that we don't even see. Right? Everybody is being as non-racist as possible. if they're really working to be a part of the solution. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be there 100% of the way.
Right.
But we can't compare eating animals with other social justice issues, at least not the ones that most people care about and are aware of, because they're not comparable issues in certain ways, right? Most of the world finds things like rape and racism and misogyny reprehensible. Whether they're actually taking action to stop these problems is not the question. These are, these are socially reprehensible attitudes. A lot of people say, oh, meat-free Mondays is like rape-free Thursdays. Well, rape is like, is a crime.
Right. Even I just was like, wait, not the same.
It's not the same. So, but when it comes to eating meat, we're talking about a behavior that is like celebrated, right?
Yeah.
It takes a very different psychology to be eating animals than it does to be going out and raping people and actively engaging in racist, bigoted behaviors.
Right. And it has something to do with us one-on-one as well. It's like me and a cow as opposed to me and a man.
Yeah, I try to look at it from the victim's point of view, and it's like that animal that's going into the slaughterhouse that has no way out, that's watching its friend in front of them be killed, and then they're next in line, and then when their throat is slit, it's like, yeah, to them, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen.
For sure.
Totally.
Totally. And I get that, like, eating meat, it's just, it's normalized, but it is like one of the most violent actions one could partake in. When you see it from the victim's perspective.
Well, that
look at Jeffrey Dahmer.
Question.
Jeffrey Dahmer ate humans, like those victims, that were turned into meat.
That's a problem.
It's a problem.
Well, Melanie, do you think if people saw what was happening to the cows and the pigs, do you think that's effective? Even though, because people freak out. Even if I don't say anything bad, if I show what's happening, they also freak out. But they have this needs to change when it's the same type of cruelty to cats and dogs.
Right.
Do you think that is effective? Because I feel like sometimes people just mute me out on the socials whenever I show what's happening instead of verbally condoning those types of behaviors or participating in these industries. So it's like, doesn't that help though when you actually see what's happening?
I had to see it.
It depends. Yeah, it depends. It's how they see it, right? And it's a little bit tricky, but I want to go back to what you were saying, Jamie, which is like, I think really important. And I'm guessing a lot of listeners can like relate to what you're saying, and I certainly can too, where you're saying for the victims, right? This is the worst thing that can happen. There's
literally
no question, right? There's no question about that. There's also no question. I mean, this is what my research has focused on, right? This very same psychology that enables us to harm animals enables us to harm humans. And we know that the psychological structure is the same. Yeah. What I'm saying is that when we compare socially acceptable behaviors and celebrated behaviors with socially reprehensible behaviors, for most people, when somebody is doing something that's normalized, it does not take the same level of intention and the same level of emotional disconnect as it does to go out and actively rape somebody or engage in socially reprehensible behaviors. Right. And we are just, as soon as we bring in these comparisons, we've lost the audience.
Right. Because they also don't see animals as worthwhile. They don't see them as the same.
That's right.
Yeah, we lose immediately, for sure.
That's right. So we've lost them, so it's that's what I'm saying. And it's just important, I think, again, to keep eye on the prize. Like, it's all about what is best for the animals? How can we reduce their suffering as much as possible? Not necessarily what's actually right in what we're saying, And so, okay, so the question was, oh my God, I just lost it. What's the question
I
was going to speak to?
The
visuals, the graphic imagery. Mm-hmm. So the way that we show it's true. Not everybody needs to see graphic imagery in order to stop eating animals or reduce their consumption of animals, right? But it is important to make some of the invisible visible, but we need to do it in a way that, again, honors the well-being of the person we're showing it to. When we shock people with graphic imagery, and even when we shock people with graphic imagery, that's a form of emotional violence. Yeah. People can very easily become traumatized. And what tends to happen is A, they shut down, and B, they see us as the bad guy because we have caused them to suffer. So if we want to do this, the way to do it,
themselves.
Yeah. But you're explaining the psychology. I understand what you're saying, but we're like...
Yes, and it's not just that they're thinking about themselves. This is just a normal psychological reaction. I mean, I can tell you, for me personally, there are things that I will never be able to unsee that have really harmed me.
Yeah.
And I wish to God I had never seen those. They do not serve me. And it's because people were throwing up stuff online without any disclaimers, without any warnings on it. And it just jumped in my face. And that does not serve me and enable me to do the work that I do any better. In fact, it's the opposite, if anything. And when we are, a lot of vegans, kind of feel obligated to push this information out there because we know people don't want to see it. So it's like, oh, let me just shock you with it. But that tends to shut people down and make people react defensively.
Yeah.
To share the information, do it. I mean, online is a tricky way to do it too, but it really needs to be done cautiously.
Yeah, I personally have tried to take a step back within the last 6 months from even engaging in any type of content online when it comes to animals. I'm vegan AF, and it destroys my day. I will see a video and just go off, and I'm angry and I'm emotional, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I understand that's exactly what happens.
For me, it's the opposite.
But it helped me. But it is a lot, honestly.
When I see that kind of footage, it makes me more willing to do whatever it takes to raise awareness. And I really love this one quote by Martin Luther King. It was like, in an interview, he was asked, you're hanging out at all these nice dinners, you're going to all these conferences, and you're giving all these incredible speeches. How do you stay with your eye? How does your eye stay on the prize, kind of thing? And he goes, I take a trip down south, and I remember what I am doing this for. And it's easy to get distracted by, in our world, all the delicious plant-based food, the fun vegan makeup products and clothes and conferences. And for me, I go to slaughterhouses every couple weeks. And it's like taking that trip down south to be like, you are who I'm doing this for.
I think because you do more, your whole career is based off of giving that information. For me, I want to be as much of an advocate as possible. But for me, I physically, mentally, emotionally cannot do it because it's like I'm a sponge. I soak in every single emotion, whatever is going on in the footage, and it as much as I want to share it, I always have that conflict with this needs to be shared, people need to see this, maybe one person's gonna change, but then I couldn't even watch it. So it's like, and I care. So imagine someone who doesn't care that much or is freaking out about seeing those images. I battle all the time, and I'm trying to be more like your approach, Melanie, because it has helped me a little bit with my own mental state and my own abilities to continue to be an animal advocate.
And you have to, it's good. And you have to honor who you are. I mean, you guys have different personalities, right? There's so many forms of activism that are necessary. And you do have to, trauma rates of PTSD in our movement are really high. And I have written about this, and we have courses, and we have a lot of resources to share with listeners on, addressing these issues that we've talked about and more. And many people are traumatized. And when we are traumatized, yes, we may have more of that fire in our belly, but often that fire in our belly is expressed in ways that are a lot more, not always, but often, expressed in ways that are a lot more confrontational than what brings us the results that we want, right? So it's like you go to a demo. I mean, I remember in the old days, I used to go to a demo, and after being around all of these signs and just seeing everything that was, I'd be like, and I'd see somebody who was eating animals, and I'd be like, in my mind, you're the reason,
right?
And it's well, no, that person's 0.0001% of the reason. And so there's a line, right? There's a line, and you really need to honor who you are. And I think a lot of people who would join this movement and who would be open to the information that we have to share don't, because they're terrified that they're going to be flooded with the kind of like trauma that many of us continue to struggle with, because when you're part of the movement, you know, very often this is what's kind of coming up, indiscriminately coming up. So
it's so true. Along with perfectionism, to be a perfect vegan immediately. And that definitely scares them into jumping in because they're like, I don't know if I'm ready to be perfect. You know,
I mean, it's interesting trying to navigate this world. I've gone through so many different stages of activism. From when I first started, I was super angry. And now it's been almost a decade later, and I'm constantly trying to analyze the approach to see like how we can be more effective. And so we're so grateful for people like you that are truly like analyzing the psychology behind it, looking at studies to prove that there are more effective ways of advocating. And so this is going to get us closer to the vegan world that we hope to see one day, that we will see one day.
That we will see one day. What's your official title for your book, Melanie?
Why we love dogs, eat pigs, and wear cows.
Yes. So if you're interested into what Melanie has to say in depth, go check out her book. And is there any place they could follow you by chance?
Yeah, sure. We can send the links for Instagram and our other socials. But, I have 8 books out actually. And I have a book on communication and relationships between vegans and non-vegans. And we've got a video called What to Say to Vegans that you can share with the people in your life who are not vegan and you want them to understand you better. It's on, if you come to carnism.org, there's a lot of resources there. And also at veganadvocacy.org, we have lots of free resources, courses on how to avoid burnout and take care of yourself and manage trauma and how to advocate effectively, and a lot of the topics that we've been covering. But yeah, you guys are great. I think it's like a great conversation. I love how you're able to bring together like serious, heavy topics and share your own personal experience with them, but also keep it like engaging and light. And it's like lots of different entry points for people when you guys are talking. So it's really cool and great to watch.
Thank you. And we definitely have different perspectives, so it kind of makes for that like
we want the same mission, but different approaches. Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you so much, Melanie. It was a joy to have you here.
Everybody check out Beyond Carnism on Instagram, and we'll link it all below.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Bye. I feel like I could have asked 50 more questions.
For sure. I was like, and I'm like, Jamie, listen to this.
I'm like, we're running out of time here. She is just so brilliant in how she breaks all of this down. And I think that like as vegans living in a non-vegan world, to understand like where our friends and our families are at, to understand like how we can not be super triggered by all the different things that come our way. It's very helpful.
Right. It's like I know all of these things. We know all of these things, but to like, I don't know, I guess like her bringing it back that it's like a psychological thing, and like to remember that like even though people like want to hear the message, their brain is just not allowing them to accept it and let it really land. And that's so true, because it took me forever. I did not, it took me like almost a decade to get my shit together. So it patience. I mean, I really do think it's just like people don't get to spend time with the animals, so they don't get to know their personalities and see them freak out over nothing. You're like, oh my God, this pig is wilding out. All I did was stand up. He's like, I'm like, dude, calm. And I'm like, oh my God, if you were at the slaughterhouse, you would have an aneurysm. Like, people forget those little things, that it's not just like they're there and then they die. Like, it's nonstop suffering, torture, just like your dog would feel.
Okay, so I'm going to quiz you on some of what Melanie said. I want to just know if you're paying attention.
This girl, I cannot.
So what are the 3 N's, Miss Justina Adorno?
The 3 N's? She said... Wait. The 3 N's was noticing.
This bitch.
This is why I'm an actress. I'm not a scholar.
And she made sure to say this twice for us.
I was listening.
Okay, is it A, naked?
No.
No?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, well, that would be one of the ends, but...
It was? No, it wasn't. Dang, come on.
Okay, fine, it's not naked.
I know it's not naked.
Is it naughty?
Okay, well, now we're wasting time.
Okay, so your answer is no? Okay, I'll give you one of them.
Give me one of them.
Normal.
Normal.
Natural.
Normal, natural.
And? Necessary.
Necessary.
You have to start taking notes because we have our guests that come on. They give us all this amazing information.
But it's not for me.
Normal, natural, and necessary.
Okay, I am normal, natural, and necessary.
So this is how you can remember it, okay? Good.
Normal, natural,
Are you ready for your next question?
Normal. Oh my God.
What is the coined term by Dr. Melanie Joy to describe this belief system that guides people's
Carnism.
Good. Okay. All right. At least we got one there. One for two. Is that how you say it?
1 out of 2. Okay.
1 out of 2.
Okay. How many? Continue. Do this
Okay.
faster.
Okay.
Oh, you're coming up with this on the spot.
Yes, I'm quizzing you.
Okay.
What, you have a question for me? Hit me.
She was trying to challenge me.
A+ student over here.
So, this season we have some Just So You Know cards.
I love how it looks like Just So You Know is coming out of my vagina.
Yikes.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm listening to it.
It's the creation.
I'm listening to your vagina.
Yeah, you
I'm
are.
like,
There's some
what is she
headphones over there.
Okay.
Huh.
Ooh, this one kind of goes into topic.
Okay.
So this is a this or that,
Hit me.
basically. Is making people uncomfortable necessary for real change? Yes or no?
Okay, well, I always say that with discomfort comes growth. You can look at this in many different arenas. With yoga practice, when you are stretching, let's say when I first started practicing yoga, I could not touch my toes. Through discomfort, I changed. I was able to then touch my toes and grow. And I do think that there needs to be some level of discomfort to have somebody question their behavior and change. Personally, I'm going to say yes.
Okay, so your answer is yes. Okay. Do you want another question?
Is that I think that's right? I don't know.
There's no right or wrong. I feel like Melanie was basically saying there's a balance, but to understand that there's deep rooted psychology behind people receiving and retaining information, that sometimes the negative stuff, it's just disruptive to the system and brings up defenses and closes off the printing process in the brain. So I don't know. We're different but similar. I need some sort of I like tough love. I don't like it all the time. I need a little dose of some tough love. So I don't know if it's yes or no. I think it's
I think what Melanie said about intention was really important. So when we are talking to somebody, is our intention to judge them, to shame them? Do we see them as the enemy, or do we see them as a potential ally?
Dude, that's my problem.
And that's different.
The other day I was challenging someone because I was they were like, oh, so you have to go vegan? Keep your mouth closed. And I was like, well, if you're not, then you're kind of being the problem. I literally used the words she said, and I was like, I literally turned their brain off. They were like, never gonna go vegan. And I'm like, why never? Justin Bieber said, I will never say never. So then why are you saying never?
And this is a perfect example of tough love.
Exactly. But my intention was not good. I was like...
So did it work or no?
It's too soon to tell. I mean, at the moment it did not work. I don't feel like I ever made anyone go vegan that I was tough to. I feel like the people who have told me, oh, I went vegan because of you, I was always very graceful and just didn't put pressure on them and just led by example.
Interesting.
I didn't feel like a vegan drill sergeant until I met you.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
Like I was like, come on, be vegan. Da, 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 it's great. But like, since like tapping into the New York scene and meeting you, I've been more like, you have to. What do you mean you have to? And like the deeper I have gone into veganism, I mean, I went vegan in like 2018. I started 2017, and then I was a ding dong, was like, I need to finish whatever's in my refrigerator. And then it became 2018. I didn't feel like it was my job to tell people, to make people go vegan. I was hoping, because everybody wants to copy me, that they would just copy me into being vegan.
Be like you.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think that's the better approach, to make it feel, to show that it's fun and there's so many pros. There are no cons. There's zero cons to going vegan, honestly.
Well, there's a difference between becoming vegan and becoming an activist.
Exactly. You don't have to be an activist and be vegan.
No, but what it was for me, where I became like, this is a responsibility to speak up about this, was for me getting closer to the suffering, was seeing the videos and noticing just the apathy that exists around them in our society. And so I feel that I want to help amplify the animals' voices and do that in different ways. With some people, I am a little bit more tough and I know that they can handle it.
Right.
With other people, I have a more gentle approach.
Right.
And so I think it's always about analyzing who you're talking to, and then also analyzing your activism and just seeing, is it working or is it not? And my yoga practice has helped so much in this, where I'm again going back to, what is my intention here? Am I acting from a place of love, or am I acting from a place of ego with my activism? Is it, I'm right and I'm better than you?
Right.
Like, you might think that, yes, there's certain actions you do that sure are probably more morally consistent, but it's not necessarily about comparing, because there's probably things that person does where they're better than you. Okay.
Right.
Like, so not claiming to be perfect here or morally superior, but all I'm saying is that, like, we should constantly challenge ourselves to be better, to do better, and to become aware of how our actions are affecting the world around us.
For sure. I mean, like, right now, the world is like, people are waking up to so many things. And I'm just kind of like, okay, this is amazing. This is amazing. I'm glad you're mad about this and that. Sick. The animals, it's all working together. There's murder, there's suffering, there's sacrifice, and there's complete disregard for their lives. And like what you said kind of triggered me, because like I also feel like I need to speak up. That's different than like feeling like I need to change someone to go vegan. I always speak up. I cannot not speak up.
Well,
I see it and I'm like,
we can't force a veggie burger down somebody's throat. They have to change.
Unfortunately.
I know. That's right.
I'm like, what if it's free?
Yeah. I mean, would you eat it?
For
We'll
free.
put some good ketchup and the sauce on it. I mean,
Good ketchup. All ketchup is
organic. I mean, I don't know. All I'm saying is, like, this is a problem where 3 times a day you can make a difference in. There's so many issues in the world that like we can't solve right away, but we can be part of the solution here. And so I don't know, you would think more people would want to jump on board, but it just goes back to, everybody wants to change the world, but when it's inconvenient for them, then they're all of a sudden they look away, or they run away.
It's the inconvenience. Like when she said like meatless Monday is different than no rape Thursdays, I was like, whoa, not the same. But at the end of the day, it's not like, I don't like that this is like part of like the conversation. Like, it's not like rape is like out there every day as an option. I mean, it is out there
3 times a day.
Yeah, it's not like it's an option.
It's not sold at the buffet.
Right. It's not like, hey, that's a door you could go into if you want to go rape, like throughout these hours, or you know what I mean?
No, and good people see it as bad, whereas good people see eating animals as normal.
Exactly. It's completely different. And it's like, they get a pass. No one is going to hold them accountable unless we do it.
Yes. And I think we are.
With rape too.
Just so you know.
We need to keep them accountable as well.
Totally. I think with veganism, it's made me actually just more aware of different social justice issues. It's made me more mindful, more sustainable. Like, it hasn't taken away my empathy from other areas. Like, it's not like, oh, you care about goats, fuck the single mother of 5. Like, you can care about both.
I care about goats. Everybody else, good riddance.
Goats are where my empathy ends. Like, this is what people think about us, I think.
I'm like crunching ice. I'm so sorry. My line ends at animals. Everybody else can get off the boat. I am Noah, and I'm only saving the animals. So get off my boat.
It's a big enough of a problem, right? There's a lot to take on with that.
But it's true. If you wanna see a change, you have to be the change. And the easiest way is by not eating animals. Everything that you can personally do.
Right.
I mean, like being like you said, like eco-friendly and all that stuff, that goes hand in hand with that. But if you want to open up your brain, being vegan is also eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's not forget that part.
This episode was super helpful as just an activist trying to understand why the people we love and all the people around act the way that they do. And it's not just surface level. Like, it's so deep in the psychology. And so when we advocate and when we talk to people about these things, to look back at Melanie's work and to understand, like, the behaviors, and when we can understand the behaviors, we can change them.
100%. And just so you know, Justina is saying a little bit makes a big difference. So if you just want to, like,
who else would be saying this? Why did you?
I mean, you want them to go vegan overnight. So do I. But, like, if you can slowly get there and, like, not get any, you know, dairy, milk, cheese, ice cream, and that's like where you start, or you're not eating red meat, cows, that's a great start. I mean, I started like that. And so, like, it does make a difference. And I promise you, one vegan does not represent all. Just like one woman does not represent all. One man does not represent all. And that goes with everything, like within sexuality, within culture. Like, there are people in the vegan community that accept anyone who is curious, who isn't ready to be 100%. Like, wherever you're at is to start.
It's a gateway too, and I think it's helping people realize, oh, this is doable. Like, I can have the oat milk and it tastes good and it doesn't actually hurt my stomach.
Yeah, we're so lucky. It's 2026. Like, the options are abundant and they're just getting better and better.
Yeah. Well, everybody should definitely go check out Dr. Melanie Joy. Go to carnism.org. Check out Beyond Carnism on Instagram.
Dang, girl, you memorize all that stuff. I couldn't even remember the 3 N's.
I hope it's right. We'll link it below. But you can follow our podcast. It's JSYK Podcast on Instagram.
Yes, good job.
I'm at It's Jamie's Corner.
I'm at Justina.Justina.
And until next time, you know the drill.
Wait, subscribe, comment, like, share. You guys, we're back for season 2, but we need your support. Don't tell us only that you watch it. I need to know that you shared it, you tagged us, and what episode you like. You can rewatch our first season. Remember that.
We want to hear from you. And until next time, we will be back. We'll 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 be back.